Hey guys, I want to touch on something that's being discussed in our comment threads right now. It's about whether or not there was an open CPS case, okay? And we are being told by quite a few people who claim to be privy to the information, in fact, even actually having access to or seeing the court file, the case file, which is part of a court file, but whatever. That yes, there was an open CPS case. So if that's true, then we really should be able to take a look at this case through a different lens. And you know what? Even if it isn't true, I think it is true, and I think it's reasonable to believe that it's true. But even if it isn't, just watch some of those videos. What do you think? Lots of Tylenol? Like, what dose is that? So here's the thing. One of our subs posted this comment. So I'm just going to read what he posted, and then I'm going to tell you what I think. Did you know that when Christopher Watt's wife was complaining to friends about Chris distancing himself from her, she constantly brought up what Chris was saying about his daughters? He was constantly concerned for his daughters. He loved those girls. Here's a quote from the True Crime Case Analysis blog. And if you guys aren't familiar with that, you should check it out. They have amazing articles. And I know the person who has that blog, and I know that person is probably one of the best researchers ever. She's very intelligent, she's articulate. In fact, I wish she would do a YouTube channel, but I respect her decision not to, considering how people are treated on YouTube. So anyway, if you haven't checked out that blog, you really should, because there's so much information. And, you know, if you listen to one of our videos and think, oh, gee, that makes no sense, go to the True Crime Case Analysis blog and it'll all make sense. Okay, this is what the person commenting is quoting from the True Crime Case Analysis blog. Quote, every time Christopher Watt's wife tried to get him to talk, fight with her, or react in those 2 weeks, we're talking about, you know, the 2 weeks leading up to the tragedy, right? Chris expressed feelings about Bella and Celeste. We have discussed the examples, but let me share them again. Quote, your response last night was, quote, I don't want to lose the kids. Another text, quote, that's what you said last night. You didn't say you didn't want to lose us. You said you didn't want to lose the kids. And then a couple or so texts later, quote, you haven't fought for me this week. It's only the kids. And then to Christopher Watt's wife's friend, Christina, she said, quote, he said nothing. He just said, I love the kids. I wouldn't really say that he said nothing when he expressed love for their girls. It was just that Christopher Watt's wife hadn't expressed his emotions about. I don't understand that part. And then it says a few texts later to Christina, quote, he responded, I don't want to lose the kids. I walked away in tears since I couldn't take any more. And then on the blog it says Chris definitely was not reacting the way she wanted him to. Okay, now think about this. If what we're being told is true, that there was an open CPS case, which again, I believe it's absolutely reasonable to believe it based on all of the details of this case that we've seen. If that's true, now think about it. There was a case hearing coming up. What was it, a status hearing? I don't know. Was it a hearing to terminate parental rights? Was it a hearing to change a family plan? Was it a hearing, maybe a hearing to terminate a family plan? Was it a hearing to check to see whether or not the conditions of the family plan were being followed? And maybe they weren't. Right? So let's just say Christopher Watts gets something in the mail, a notice of hearing saying that he's due in family court or wherever, right? Specific to the family plan or specific to an open CPS case, right? Well, what's he going to think? Remember, he's not the person who would have been the subject of the family plan, except that he's the protective parent. So he would have to be at the hearing. Of course, he's the father, right? He's the parent of the children. So he would have gotten a hearing, a notice of hearing saying, be there or be square, right? And he knew it was coming up. He knew it was just a few days. And I'm sure he said to her, look, I'm not going to lose the girls, right? I'm not going to lose the girls. We're not going to have the girls taken away from our home over this. Not going to happen. Okay, now if you're that person who is being told by your husband that when it comes to you or the kids, guess who gets to come first? Thank goodness, right? If you're that person and you've been telling a whole bunch of people all over Facebook for a long time how you're so successful and you're making all this money and oh gee, everyone's lucky when you shine your light on them, and then you realize there's a hearing coming up and you realize that your husband is making it very clear that at that hearing he will not put the kids at risk of being removed. So now take a look at what his words were, and also think about this. Christopher Watts' wife said that she asked her husband if he wanted her to get an abortion. Christopher Watts' wife said to her husband, would you stay with me if we didn't have kids? That could have been the core issue of this disaster. That could have been the core issue. Mr. Doormat, who finally hit a point of saying, no, I'm not going to take a chance of the girls getting removed from the home. No, we're splitting. And if you take it and put it in that context, then all of those statements that she made all make sense.